Hello and welcome to episode 49 of the What If South is Up podcast, where we dive into the arts of world building and storytelling with a what if lens. Together, we explore, dissect, and expand the speculative and fantasy worlds of our own making. Blending a bit of wisdom and a dash of whimsy, we aim to spark creativity for ourselves and for you. Get ready to reimagine and dig deeper as we journey from what if to what's possible. In other words, how to wing it like an author. My name is Derrick Hall, creator of the world of Ketra, which serves as home to a young adult sword and sorcery titled Crimson Prophecy. I also have a dystopian sci-fi game-lit adventure titled 10 Levels Down. And with me tonight is Christina Xtina Lefebvre.
You said it right.
I usually do.
You do. And I'm in the middle of building my world, Cobb, a magical parallel Earth where colonization never happened in the Americas. I'm an aspiring author, but not yet published like my lovely host, Mr. Derrick. So, to kick things off, and before we see which what if question chance brings us today, let's do a potion or maybe an elixir check. Mr. Hall, what are you drinking today, and what's going on in the real world for you?
'Tis a week before Yule, and snow falleth peacefully, but alas, I clingeth to mine summer ale. Verily, the ale I drink was brewed for the king himself in Mexico. I have a Corona.
You did fantastic.
I'm very basic. It is literally snowing outside and like 20 degrees, and I have a Corona.
Yeah, it's
The last of my summer stash. And the real world is an absolute nightmare at the moment. Very busy.
Yeah.
Schedules are all over the place, but I'm working on some new projects and have a new book coming out.
I know you do. It's so exciting.
Yeah. Release date is January 10th for Elements of Creation. I stole our podcast title, but it is a nonfiction guide to world building for authors. So if anyone's interested in that, go check it out. You can pick it up pre-orders just about anywhere, and paperback will be out on release day.
How exciting.
Yeah, sorry, shameless plug.
That's what we're here for. Not really. We're here to help everyone write and do worlds, right? That's why we're really here, right? Not to plug. Yeah. That's
we're here to help people. That's why I wrote the damn thing.
And I am drinking something straight from Elixia's most frequented pub, Ice Akalak. That's the name of the pub, not my drink. I'm drinking an apple cider martini. And
sounds really good, honestly.
Yeah, well, it is.
It does sound really good.
I decided, okay, I needed something that was like wintry. What do they have? Fruits for winter? Okay, so that's what I came up with, and it's actually really good. And it's actually a cider and vodka and a little bit of fizzy water, and it's pretty good.
I did something very similar to that at a family thing over Thanksgiving, and it was delicious. Except I did it with apple pie moonshine and vermouth and triple sec and a little bit of Sprite.
Well, there you go.
It was tasty.
I bet.
I like apple pie and triple sec. I'm not sure why. I think the citrus just goes well with it.
Well, I wouldn't have any reason to disagree with that at this point. I'll have to try it and then disagree with you.
Just a teeny bit. Not much.
Just a teeny bit. Not. And in my real world, like the rest of the world at this point in time, not the rest of the world, the rest of, I don't know, much of
the rest
United
of the
States.
First world.
Maybe not even them, but the rest of the United States. I'm getting ready for Christmas.
Yule, solstice, whatever.
All of the holidays I'm getting ready for. And I'm getting ready for a 2-week vacation to Albuquerque in January, which is taking up more time than it should. So,
are you driving?
No, we're not driving. We're going to fly. And Brian and I have both agreed, Brian being my husband, and I have both agreed that this is probably the last time we'll ever fly because we're both really not looking forward to the trip. And it's almost as expensive as driving. So, Ugh,
Yeah, it just takes way less time.
it just takes way less time. But you know
Hmm.
what? In the end, we spend the same amount of time together. So, what's the point? The
Yeah,
point
but
is
do
to
you want to
spend time
spend your
together.
time exploring and having fun, or do you want to spend your time cooped up in a car for 4 days?
It depends on how you spend those 4 days in the car. I
That's
would rather go slowly for 5 days and explore along the way than
hmm
try to race there in four. But we'll see.
yeah. With elixirs in hand and digressions out of the way, let's talk world smithing. What breakthroughs, techniques, or tips have sparked new life into your world building, story, or lore recently? Stina, what do you have?
So for today's World Smiths Workshop, um, I wouldn't say no huge new breakthroughs, not really, but I am listening to a nonfiction book called Mutual Aid, or I did listen to, and some of the concepts about their uh, I don't know, cooperative society, they're working together to achieve things, has I don't know, huge similarities to what I've already dreamed up for my world, in this in this non capitalistic slash non colonial world that I'm building.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty. I don't know. It was pretty resonant. Is that a word? It was pretty resonant. It was
Resonant is a word.
yeah. And it resonated with me, but it was kind of reassuring. But also on the other side, I was like, huh, I wanted to be the one that come up with this, but that's not how the world works. We all know that everything's already
No.
been thought of more or less.
Yeah.
So, but
We just
for
put it
my
in a different
for
order.
true. But as far as world building goes, I'm actually going to go back through and read this author's original writings. Excuse me, I shouldn't say that. Read the original writings of mutual aid that this book is based off of, that was written in the, I don't know, early 1900s or late 1800s or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
because I want to see where these concepts grew and came from. So, for a world building tip, I think sometimes knowing factual history or some real things that have happened. So, studying nonfiction, not just like what your book you're writing, which is like a how to guide, but a nonfiction as to what has happened, historical,
Mm-hmm.
really can help us really build a world that's, with depth. Um, just like The Handmaid's Tale, the original book.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the stuff that she wrote in there was based off of history. She didn't make anything up.
Oh yeah.
She, yeah, so but it made it fascinating. So I think that when we're looking at world building, reusing real world historical events or real world philosophies can actually help us to build a interesting world. But anyways, I'm digressing and I'm talking when I've already said what I need to say. So I'm going to ask you, what have breakthroughs or techniques have you had?
Well, my worldsmithing has taken a different turn lately. I'm shifting into a new, somewhat creative, but mostly academic pursuit, as I mentioned, writing nonfiction. I pulled together years of notes and really just wrote down all the things that I wish I had known when I started writing and building worlds,
Mm-hmm.
in an effort to try to help some other people. So that's where I'm at, and it's shocking how many notes you can accumulate over 3 or 4 years of writing.
So I'm really curious, as you're rereading through these notes, have you relearned anything, or, you know, remembered something you forgot, or do you have any new insights after reading through your notes?
I don't know about relearned anything or forgotten anything, but it's definitely interesting how some seemingly irrelevant layer of world building makes a massive difference somewhere else. So if you forget about your, let's say, geography, or well, not geography, like the interiors of places, setting in a specific sense, like the interior of a room is a huge part of world building. How does that room look? Like if you're in a normal person's house, how does it look? Is it a dirt floor? Is it a stone floor? Like in a fantasy sense, is it, polished marble that you can see your face in? What is it? Because that makes a huge difference. And it's one of those layers that is easy to forget, and you end up with white wall syndrome, where your character's just sort of floating in a void. They're in a room, but you
Mm-hmm.
don't know what the room looks like. And it's one of those things that a lot of people, especially beginners, or in my experience, dungeon masters for D&D, forget. They forget setting. They'll tell you the story and tell you what's happening, but you don't know where it's happening half the time. So it's an interesting thing to look at, because it's something that a lot of people miss. And you wouldn't think it would make a huge difference to your characters, or your plot or anything like that, but it does, because you can take the same story and set it in, say, New York in the 50s or Italy in the 1500s, and it looks completely different. It feels completely different.
I agree with you. And not only does it, like you said, not only does it look different, like you said, or feel different, like you said, but the story has a different nuance.
Hmm.
So,
Which I don't know if
a
you caught it, but that is a reference to Romeo and Juliet and A West Side Story.
uh
A West Side Story is a retelling of Romeo and Juliet,
yep.
but they're extremely different.
Mm-hmm.
So setting makes a huge difference, and it gets overlooked beyond, you know, this is the
So I
Shire, it's green, and there's short people with furry feet. Like, there's a lot more to it than that. In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit, not a nasty slimy hole full of the ends of worms and creeping things. Like, that says a ton.
yes.
This was a hobbit hole, and that means comfort. I can't
So
believe I'm
I
quoting the hobbit off the top of my head, but um
I you did well. You did
yeah,
very well. But I
it's
also think that
it's
there's an
essential.
important part of it. It's there's an important part of it that new writers especially forget, is that you don't have to make everybody love your story or everybody love your book. What you have to do is write a story that people who resonate with it love, right? You can't write a book that everybody loves. So West Side Story is going to appeal to a totally different demographic than Romeo and Juliet, even though they're both the same story.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I cannot write that story in a world, in a setting that's going to please both those audiences.
No, you
Okay,
can't.
you can't. So setting your world in a setting, yeah, you're eliminating some people from your loving your world, but that's okay, because
Yeah.
you have to choose who's going to love your world, and you have to write for them.
Hmm.
And if that them is yourself, that's perfectly fine.
Right. Exactly. um Not, you cannot be all things to all people. It's impossible.
Yes, it
in
is
in in
impossible.
life, in writing, in you know work, whatever, somebody somewhere isn't going to like you.
So when used to teach, when I used to teach marketing, other things. But one of my famous sayings is, if you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one.
Hmm.
You have to choose your setting, and you have to choose it that matches your story and the people you
Hmm.
want to enjoy that story. Period. End of story.
Yep.
That's it.
If I took my story and, like, my Crimson Prophecy stories, and tried to set them in like a Star Trekian sci-fi, it just wouldn't work.
So I don't know if it would. You would write a different story. You'd write the
Exactly.
same basic story,
It might be the
right?
same plot beats, but it would be
Yes.
very, very different, and a
Different.
very different set of people would read it.
Yes, and they would enjoy it because you
Hmm.
know you can tell story well.
Or if I
It
took
would
10 Levels, which is set in a dystopian sci-fi future world, and tried to put it into a traditional fantasy setting, it would be very different.
it would be very different, and you'd have a different audience. So
Yep.
I think that one of the things that as new writers can understand, new world builders can understand, is that whatever your setting is, down from the simplest room in a house, in a town, in a village, in a county, an island, in a country, in the world, right?
Hmm.
What you can't neglect it.
No, you
It
can't, but
it
it's also important not to go too far the other way. Because if you're like to the left of the door, there was a shelf, and on that shelf were three pots, one of which had a lid, and the other two were cracked. But the first one contained coffee, the second one corn, and the
But
third
see,
one
that
grain.
is
And like you, that gets too much.
I agree with you, and that's not setting the setting.
No,
Okay,
that's not
that's
setting. That's myopic detail.
and that's telling.
Yeah.
Okay, you just have to get somebody into the chair of your world and let them see what they want to see.
Hmm.
You don't have to tell them what to see.
Yeah. A simply appointed room with a bed to the left side, a single table with two wooden chairs, and a fire crackling merrily in the fireplace. That's all you need. You don't
Yeah,
need what's on the shelves. You don't need, like,
unless you do.
unless you do. Like, if you're dealing
Yes.
with a healer or something, you might mention bundles of herbs drying above the mantle or
Yep.
hanging from the rafters, or
If
the
it's
scent
important
of
to the
tallow
story, yes.
candles, or something that's important. You want to appeal to the
So
senses, all of the
I just want to go
senses if you
back.
can.
I just want to go back to the original point. Is what you
Hmm.
don't want is a white wall room.
You do
That's
not want a white
exact.
wall.
You don't have a white wall room.
Your story
Okay.
is not a Matrix training program.
Yes. Okay. Explain that.
Well, if you watch the Matrix, the movie,
Hmm.
before Neo actually goes into the Matrix, they load him up into a training simulation where he learns kung fu and learns to
Hmm.
fight and like learns to handle weapons and all of that stuff, but it is a blank white space. No floor, no ceiling, no walls. It is a void.
Right. That is not the
And
world
that
that's
is not
interesting.
what you want.
Yeah. Unless it is. But
Unless it
my
is.
point is, unless, but the point is that
Generally speaking,
don't.
that's not what you want.
And so this whole episode shouldn't be on setting. I just think it's
Mm-mm.
so fascinating. So ne- um, just don't ignore setting because you think what people want more is conversation. They
Right.
need both.
Yes, you absolutely need both.
Well, you
And
need more than both,
well,
but
and I am
you need a
historically a dialogue heavy author, but the setting is still there.
yeah.
I just don't go
All right.
overboard on it.
Um, I would argue that in some cases you've gone underboard, but
Yeah, a lot of people argue that.
yeah, no big
Personally, I
deal.
prefer to let the reader fill in the blanks, give them the basics and what's necessary, and then let them shape the world in their own mind.
And I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. And we'll go into this later. Let's just move on.
This
All right.
sounds like a topic for another episode.
Yeah, for a great episode. As world builders, it's essential to keep our creative skills sharp by exploring other realms, stories. Since our last episode, which world have you been visiting, Derek? And through which portal did you enter? And most importantly, what did you take from it?
Well, my latest fascinations have been TV shows. One set very firmly in the real world and grounded in emotion, and the other set in the Star Wars universe. So
Mm,
the former being Day of the Jackal, which on a surface level is an assassin spy drama, but it's really about people. Family relationships and work life balance take a very central role, as do hard moral decisions. Fantastic, highly recommended. Season one just finished up, so that's on Peacock if you want to watch it. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other is Skeleton Crew, which is ongoing. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't really have deep thoughts about it yet. But so far, it's been a fun Stranger Things Goonies mashup in a Star Wars onesie.
So I watched the first episode, and all I could think of is that they were doing the Star Trek following suit from the Star Trek animated. God, what was that new animated film for the kids one?
Oh, I
They were
don't
just
know.
trying to play kid one. Star. Uh,
I haven't watched this week's episode yet, but I've watched the last three, and they were all really good.
Prodigy. Star Trek Prodigy. It just feels like they're following Star Trek Prodigy. They're like they had to. It's like Star Trek put out a
Yeah,
kids series, and so Star Wars has to. So I did watch the first episode, and I thought it was absolutely adorable.
it is adorable. Um,
Yeah.
I love that they're using practical effects for a lot of it, and
Yep.
I love getting like that sort of old school '80s kid movie vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Because I recently rewatched with the kid, Flight of the Navigator.
Oh my gosh. I think
Yeah,
did I? Oh yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
movie is
Yeah.
so weird.
Yeah. That
Um,
was awesome.
but I recently rewatched that with the kid, and it's got that '80s like kid movie vibe, kind of like E.T. and the Goonies and stuff like that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know, there's something about that. It feels wholesome, even if it's not.
Yep. Yep.
um, ET would not be PG rated these days. But it's it's fun. I mean, that's the best I can say about it right now. It's fun. I'm enjoying it. It's got a fun sort of gallivanting across the universe vibe to it, and yeah, it'll be fun to see where it goes.
Yep. I'll watch more episodes.
You should. It doesn't actually start to get good until the second episode.
Okay.
The second episode is really short though. It's like 26 minutes or something.
Okay.
But yeah, that's when it starts to get interesting. But, what about you? What have you been exploring and diving into story wise?
So last night with hubby, I watched a new Christmas movie, which is on my new list of Xmas favorites. It's called Red One.
Hmm.
I love the mix of magic and science and this spyness and this secret agency stuff, which is really cool. Not to mention, how can you go wrong with Dwayne Johnson, Chris Evans, and Lucy Liu? I mean, you just can't go wrong. Um, so it was really fun. I wish they had done a little more of the big polar bear, but it was fun. Also, I'm listening to Parable of the Sower
Hmm.
by Octavia E. Butler. It was really slow to start. Um, but now I'm actually having a pretty hard time putting it down. I mean, I'm listening on ebook, so putting it down is a weird term because I'm having a hard time pushing pause. Um, I'm kind of intrigued by this dystopian world set in current time, like in our time. Uh, it's not really like a novel, though. Um, it's definitely first person uh, narrator kind of thing. It's probably really more literary fiction than any kind of genre fiction.
Hmm.
So it took me a minute to get into it, but the narrator's doing a great job. And but what was interesting is when you're talking about setting, I'm realizing in this book, uh, it's literary fiction, it's not genre fiction, but she
Hmm.
spends so little time talking about setting.
Hmm.
But given that, I still have a deep sense of the big world setting. So I don't know, it's pretty interesting. Um, but I'm actually really happy that I'm actually quote unquote reading a book right now because it's been a long time since I've actually been able to read a book.
Fair.
Yeah.
Absolutely fair. I've been a little busy writing to read much more than my usual Witcher right now, so I'll get through them eventually.
Eventually.
I've got one more.
Hmm.
Now it's time for Worldsmith Darlings. Each of us will share a few words that paint a vivid picture of another's world. It could be a passage from another author that we admire, or perhaps one that missed the mark, or something we wrote. These might be snippets we're proud of, or dead darlings that didn't make the final cut. Ready to dive into some world building wins and woes, Ixtina?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'll go first. He raised his sword over his head and brought it down hard on the shield. More than a third of it split away, torn to shreds beneath his fury. She screamed, a soundless cry only noted because of her open mouth. The shattered shield hung from her arm because of the straps that bound it there, limp and useless.
Yeah, that gives in very few words, it gives a very deep understanding, not understanding, I would say peekaboo into the world. I know what's happening at the moment just based on this.
Yeah, well, somebody's fighting.
Somebody's fighting somebody,
Mm
and it, and given that, I don't know, I can tell it's in the midst of a battle somehow, just how you put it all there.
hmm. Yeah. Yep, it is.
Good job.
Thank you. What do you have?
So this is the latest opening to my novel.
Oh, boy.
In a time before this time, there came a day when sun painted the clouds red, a skyrock fell, trembling the land, and even though it was not yet night, the day went dark. Thunderbird blinked, and for no more than a flash of time, the dark was banished and sky shone bright once more.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's a hell of an opening line.
Well, it's a couple sentences, but that's my opening,
Yeah,
yeah.
but still. Damn. Okay, I want to know more.
Yay!
Who is Thunderbird? Why was Dark banished for no more than a flash? What's going on? Did this kill the dinosaurs? Um, so many questions. But that's what
Yeah,
the rest
thank
of the
you.
book is for.
That's what the rest of the book is for.
Yep. Well
Thank
done.
you. And now, in time for our main event and our favorite game, World Builders Roulette. Woo! Each week, we place the fate of our worlds in the hands of the D20, letting it choose from our list of wild, speculative, and magical scenarios. Will this week's roll transform our worlds or inspire an entirely new one? Only the dice know. So let's see where they'll lead us. Did you bring your dice?
I did.
Oh, you're so good to me.
Yeah. All right. Number 18 for this week. What if mythological creatures existed, but their form depended on the beliefs of those around them?
Wait, what? What if mythological creatures existed, but their forms depended on the beliefs? Oh, so only those that believed in them could see them?
Or they look
Hmm.
different to different people, or like
Ooh.
different cultures.
Oh, that's interesting. Hmm.
Like pulling from real world mythology here, you might have a minotaur in Greece, but if it went to Nepal, it might be a yeti.
Hmm. So how would this change your world and or your story?
Or in the Pacific Northwest, it might be Bigfoot.
Right.
Yeah.
So how would I love this concept actually. I really do love this concept of so I have a friend who um believes studies um I wouldn't say worships, but believes, studies, um, idealizes fairies,
Mm-hmm.
right? They and so what if she can see them because she believes in them? And what if she's not, you know, what some people to believe is, a little bit out there, cuckoo, whatever, which I don't believe, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
In case you're listening, Rena, I don't believe that, not even a little bit. Um, and but because she believes she can see them. And what if I, in my world, nobody ever poo pooed if someone said they saw some kind of mythological creature? They're like, oh, cool. You're the unicorn viewer. You're
Mm-hmm.
you're the you're the Yeti viewer. That
Yeah.
would be I think that would be actually fascinating, and I think I can work that into my story quite well. And I love where this can take me.
Yeah, I think it would work into your world really well.
I think it would be a magical ability that would be just as um, um, appreciated as any other, maybe more. Ooh, I like this.
Yeah.
I really like
Well, I mean,
this.
too, if you take it a step further and kind of apply it globally, like Thunderbird, what if that's belief has sort of fallen away over time, and for some people it's a legend or a myth, and other people still cling to it, and they can, see Thunderbird or whatever, and other people can't.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a fun idea to play with for sure.
And what if I took it one step further? Is that not only can they see them, but maybe they could communicate with them and have the other creatures help when they need it, or maybe hurt when they needed it. I don't know.
I cannot remember for the life of me what book or movie or whatever it was, but I remember consuming a story at some point in the past where um, it was basically this, like the creatures were around, but they didn't show up unless you like wholeheartedly believed in them. Um, and I cannot place it, but it was an interesting thing because it was. I'm trying to remember. I'm racking my brain. I believe it was like some kid that was on an adventure or whatever and needed help,
Hmm.
ended up alone or stranded or hurt or something and needed help. And I don't remember if it was a dragon or a unicorn or what it was, but this creature just sort of comes out of the woodwork and materializes because this kid believes in them. It's
So
it was a very
it's
interesting thought, and I never really thought past it, but like coming back around to it, I wish I knew what that was because that was interesting.
so there was an episode of Stargate SG-1 where um for some reason people were starting to be able to see creatures from a separate dimension. Basically, they were able to see light waves that they weren't able to see before. There
Mm-hmm.
was some kind of disease or sickness that allowed them to see light waves that they weren't able to see before. So the whole premise was these creatures are around us all the time,
Yeah,
and they can't hurt us or touch us because they're like a different dimension um, in our world. Um,
yeah.
so taking this to a sci-fi level, it would be really cool if you had humans, people that had certain abilities to see things because of the light, how their eyes saw things.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a dog can hear things we can't.
Yeah,
So I think that that would be an interesting sci-fi bent, or to a story.
yeah, for sure. Um, I might actually dig into this a little bit for book three when I get back around to that. I'm a little distracted at the moment,
Yeah.
but Yeah, I think I've mentioned it before, but I've got some like dimensional travel stuff coming up. So this could be something interesting. Like maybe somebody ends up in a place where they can see people, but people can't see them, or they can hear things going on but can't see it, or something like that. It could be very interesting. An
I do
interesting
love
twist.
it could be an interesting twist, but I really do love taking this back to the idea of mythological creatures.
Yes.
Um,
Sorry. We got off track there.
no, I'm saying that only because I think mythology can add such depth to a world.
Well, maybe the two legs are the mythological creatures. We don't know.
Maybe, maybe we are.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. So I can see this easily working into my story. Is not an antithesis at all to my world. This is a I love this concept hundred
No,
percent.
this falls in like a puzzle piece to your world. It works so well.
Mm-hmm.
My world, not so much unless I make it work and kind of shoehorn it in there. Um,
But it
Regular
gave you an
world,
idea for a new world. I mean, it
yeah,
gave you an idea.
it gave me an idea, but it wouldn't fit into the normal fabric of the world um, without sticking out like a white patch on a brand new pair of jeans. So, because Ketra is already home to mythical creatures, there's, minotaurs and dragons and all kinds of things like that. So, it wouldn't necessarily be surprising to bump into a new one.
So, but wouldn't it be interesting though to turn it around and have um and kind of make it so that you had a certain I think you call them races in your world that
Mhm.
couldn't see certain mythological creatures. Everybody, all the other races could, but this one race couldn't. So they never believed it was true, right? They thought everyone was messing with them.
It could be. I'm not sure that that's worth the page space for the gag,
No,
but
no,
it is an interesting concept. I'll
no.
give you
I'm just
that.
saying that. Yeah, it could go into a story somehow, but
Yeah, it could be done.
yeah. Oh, very
It's
interesting.
like the invisible wall on the edge of a video game map. It's there, whether you believe in it or not.
Yep.
So, and you could definitely use this for something, and I could probably use it for something if I put my head to it.
If you put, and it's okay to say it doesn't fit your world and it's not interesting to you.
No, it's interesting. It just doesn't fit my world. Unless
It
I
doesn't
make it
fit.
fit, like with
It
the
doesn't
parallel
fit
dimension
Ketra.
or whatever. Yeah,
It
it
doesn't
doesn't
fit
fit.
Ketra, and it doesn't fit 10 levels down. It doesn't fit those two at all.
Well, I mean, lots of things happen in a video game, so I could probably make it fit into the 10 levels down somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't think that would be super difficult. Video games are weird, but
Well,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Video games are weird. Weird stuff happens. It's fine. You're not leveled up enough to interact with this person. Um,
Oh, that's an interesting concept. You have to level up to be able to see certain mythological creatures.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah, like a level barrier. Like you can't go to this
Mm.
area yet.
That's interesting.
You must be level 50 to enter here or whatever. Yeah, it can happen. It's a thing.
Ah, well, that was fun.
That was fun. And
Ah,
digressions abound. We should do this more often.
we should do this more often.
Are you a world builder crafting your first universe or a seasoned creator with realms under your belt? Whether you be a D&D game master, writer, author, or simply a storyteller, we would love for all the worldsmiths to join us on the What If South is Up podcast. Head to whatifsouthisup.com or reach out on our Facebook page to send us your pitch. We would be honored to make you the star of an episode.
We'd love your help too. Our what if list is always open for new, imaginative scenarios. If you've got a unique twist or world shaking idea, send it our way. and we'll give you full credit. After all, who wouldn't love a free plug for their made up world, right? Visit our Facebook page or drop us a line at whysouthisup@gmail.com. We can't wait to see what you dream up.
So once again, I am Derrick Hall. You can find me at derrickhallauthor.com, but you can also find me as D Hall Author just about anywhere, although probably not TikTok here in the next month or so.
Oh my gosh, that's so scary. My website is uniquelyxtina.com for the moment. Who knows if I'll change that anytime soon, but I can be found on this, meaning I'm running out of money. I gotta sell a book or two. But I can be found on the socials as Uniquely Xtina, and I'm mostly active in Facebook, Insta, and for the time being, TikTok.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody, for putting up with our digressions and my weird voices. And we will see you all next time on What If South is Up.
Good job. Yay, we did it.
Wondered if
We
we'd
did
remember
it.
how.
It was fun. We're good at this.
Fun. Good. Yay.
We're good at this.
Yay.